Elvis Presley, the outsider who became king. Hello, my amazing friends. Today I have something truly special for you. Listen carefully because this story will change the way you think about breaking rules, following your heart, and the price of fame. He is the king of rock and roll, the man who changed music forever. You must have heard about Jailhouse Rock, Hound Dog, Can't Help Falling in Love. These are not just songs, they are cultural revolutions. The sound of a young man from the poorest part of America who dared to do what no one had done before, who broke every rule, who united black and white music in a world that wanted them separate. His influence is so great that modern music would not exist without him. Many artists, genres, and cultural movements we see today came from his courage to be different. But how did he become Elvis Presley, the biggest star the world had ever seen? He was not born into wealth or privilege. He grew up in a two-room shack with no electricity, no running water. His family was so poor they moved constantly, running from unpaid rent. His twin brother died at birth. He had every reason to remain invisible, yet he became the most famous person on planet Earth. So if you are different today, if people tell you to fit in, if you have a gift that the world doesn't understand yet, this story is for you. Because Elvis Presley himself was the outsider, the weird kid, the mama's boy, the truck driver who sang. This is a story of poverty, passion, revolution, and ultimately tragedy. So sit back, listen carefully, and enjoy. This will not only inspire you, but also teach you that being different is not a weakness, it's your superpower. But fame without wisdom can destroy even the greatest souls. The beginning, born to struggle. It was January 8, 1935 in Tupelo, Mississippi, one of the poorest states in the poorest country in the world during the Great Depression. In a tiny two-room wooden shack built by his father, a baby boy was born. His name was Elvis Aaron Presley, but he should have been Elvis and Jesse, because Elvis was supposed to be a twin. His brother Jesse Garon Presley was born 35 minutes before Elvis, stillborn, dead before he took his first breath. Elvis's mother, Gladys, was devastated. She had lost one son and clung to the other with a love so intense it would define Elvis's entire life. She believed Elvis survived because he had a special purpose, that God had saved him for something extraordinary. The Presleys lived in extreme poverty. Elvis's father, Vernon, was a sharecropper, a truck driver, a factory worker, whatever job he could find, but money was always scarce. Some nights the family went to bed hungry. They relied on charity from neighbors and churches just to survive. Their house, if you can call it that, was a shotgun shack. 2 rooms, no electricity, no indoor plumbing. They used an outhouse. They heated the house with a wood stove. In summer, the heat was unbearable. In winter, they froze. Elvis slept in the same bed as his parents until he was a teenager, not because they wanted to, but because there was only one bed. Privacy was a luxury they couldn't afford. When Elvis was 3 years old, his father, Vernon, was arrested and sentenced to 3 years in prison for forging a check. It was a small amount, just $8, but in those days, any crime meant prison time. The family was left even more desperate. Gladys had to work in a garment factory, sewing clothes for pennies. Young Elvis barely saw her. When she came home, exhausted and broken, Elvis would hug her and promise, "Mama, when I grow up, I'm going to buy you a big house. I'm going to take care of you forever." Gladys would cry and hold him tight. She believed him because even as a little boy, Elvis had something special, a sweetness, a kindness, and a voice. Elvis discovered music in the most sacred place for poor Southern families, the church. The Assembly of God Church in Tupelo was where the Presleys found community, hope, and music, gospel music. Every Sunday, Elvis sat next to his mother, listening to the choir sing with passion, emotion, and soul. The music moved through him like electricity. He didn't just hear it, he felt it, in his bones, in his heart. By age 5, Elvis was singing in church. His voice, even as a child, was different. It had depth, emotion, power. People would stop and listen when little Elvis sang. But Elvis was also different in other ways. He was shy, awkward. He stuttered when he spoke. Other kids made fun of him because he was poor, because his clothes were old and dirty, because he was so close to his mama. They called him Mama's boy. They mocked him for being soft, for crying easily, for being different. Elvis learned early that being yourself meant being lonely. But music was his escape. Music was the one place he felt free. By age 10, Elvis had discovered another kind of music, the blues. He would sneak down to Shake Rag, the black neighborhood in Tupelo, and listen to blues musicians play on street corners. This was dangerous in 1945. America was deeply segregated. White kids weren't supposed to go to black neighborhoods, but Elvis didn't care about the rules. He was drawn to the raw emotion, the pain, and the soul in blues music. He heard artists like Arthur Crudup and B.B. King on the radio. He absorbed everything: gospel, blues, country, pop. In his mind, all music was just music. He didn't understand why it had to be separated by color. In 1945, for his 11th birthday, Gladys wanted to buy Elvis a bicycle, but they couldn't afford it. Instead, she bought him a guitar from a hardware store, $12.95. It was all they could afford. Elvis didn't want the guitar, he wanted the bicycle, but his mother insisted. Music is a gift from God. You have that gift. That $12.95 guitar would change the world, but first it would take years of struggle, rejection, and heartbreak. The struggle, the outsider looking in. In 1948, when Elvis was 13, the Presley family moved to Memphis, Tennessee. Vernon had found work, and they needed a fresh start. Memphis was a big city, exciting, dangerous, full of opportunity and temptation. The Presleys moved into a public housing project called Lauderdale Courts. It was government housing for poor families. Their apartment was small, but better than the shack in Tupelo. For the first time in his life, Elvis had electricity and running water. But Memphis was hard on Elvis. He enrolled at Humes High School, and immediately he was an outsider. He dressed differently. His hair was long and greased back when other boys had crew cuts. He wore flashy clothes that he bought from thrift stores and altered himself. The other kids thought he was weird, strange, feminine. They bullied him constantly. They called him a sissy and a freak. Elvis didn't fight back. He wasn't aggressive. He just absorbed the pain and kept moving forward. But there was one thing Elvis loved about Memphis: Beale Street. This was the heart of black music culture in the South. Blues clubs, jazz joints, gospel churches. Elvis spent every free moment there, absorbing the music, the style, the energy. He saw how black performers moved on stage, how they felt the music in their entire bodies, how they broke the rules of proper performance. This would later become Elvis's signature style, but in the 1940s, no white person performed that way. Elvis also started performing at small local events, talent shows, church gatherings, school assemblies, but he was always nervous, terrified actually. His hands would shake, his voice would crack. After one performance, he ran off stage in tears because people didn't clap enough. In 1953, Elvis graduated from Humes High School. His classmates voted him most likely to succeed, but nobody really believed it. Elvis was just the weird, poor kid who sang sometimes. After graduation, Elvis got a job as a truck driver for Crown Electric Company. He earned $1.25 an hour driving a delivery truck around Memphis. This was his life. This was his future, a poor truck driver living with his parents in public housing. But Elvis had a dream that wouldn't die. He still practiced guitar every night. He still sang every chance he got. He still believed deep in his soul that music was his destiny. In the summer of 1953, Elvis made a decision that would change everything. He walked into Sun Records, a small recording studio on Union Avenue in Memphis. The studio had a service where anyone could record a song for $4. Elvis paid his $4 and recorded 2 songs, My Happiness and That's When Your Heartaches Begin. The studio secretary, Marian Kaiser, was there that day. She heard Elvis sing and thought, this boy has something different. But Sam Phillips, the owner of Sun Records, wasn't there. Marian wrote a note, good ballad singer, hold. Elvis took his recording home and played it for his mother. Gladys cried tears of joy. I knew it, she said. I knew God saved you for something special. But nothing happened. Elvis went back to driving his truck. Months passed. His dream seemed further away than ever. And then, in June 1954, Marian Kaiser remembered Elvis. She called Sam Phillips and said, remember that boy who came in? You should hear him. Sam called Elvis and asked him to come to the studio. Elvis was terrified but excited. This was his shot, his one chance. On July 5, 1954, Elvis walked into Sun Studios. Sam Phillips was there, along with 2 local musicians, guitarist Scotty Moore and bassist Bill Black. They tried song after song. Nothing clicked. Elvis was nervous. His voice was tight. Sam was losing patience. After hours of failed attempts, they took a break. And then, during the break, something magical happened. Elvis picked up his guitar and started fooling around, singing an old blues song called That's All Right by Arthur Crudup. But he sang it differently, faster, with more energy, mixing blues with country in a way no one had heard before. Scotty and Bill joined in. The sound was electric, raw, different, completely new. Sam stopped them. What are you doing? He asked. Do that again. They recorded That's All Right in just a couple of takes. When Sam played it back, everyone in the room knew this was it. This was something special. Sam took the recording to Dewey Phillips, no relation, a popular radio DJ in Memphis. Dewey played That's All Right on his show, and the phone lines exploded. People were calling, demanding to know who this singer was. Elvis was at a movie theater with his parents when his song played. He didn't even hear it, but when he got home, neighbors were waiting outside, congratulating him. His life was about to change forever. But nobody knew just how much, because what Elvis had created wasn't just a song, it was a revolution. The revolution, the birth of rock and roll. In 1954, America was divided, segregated. Black people and white people lived in separate worlds. Black music, blues, gospel, and R&B was called race music and was played only on black radio stations. White people listened to country and pop. Elvis Presley broke that wall. He took black music and sang it with white Southern soul. He didn't steal it, he honored it. He fused gospel, blues, and country into something entirely new, something that would be called rock and roll. But at first, nobody knew what to make of him. Radio DJs were confused. Is he white or black? They would ask. His voice sounded black, his name sounded white. When people finally saw him, they were shocked. And then they saw him perform live, and everything changed. Elvis didn't just sing, he moved. He shook his hips, he gyrated his legs. He let the music possess his body in ways that white performers simply didn't do. The first time Elvis performed on stage in Memphis, the audience went wild, especially the teenage girls. They screamed, they cried, they rushed the stage. Elvis was shocked. He had just been feeling the music. He didn't realize what his movements were doing to people. But he learned quickly, and he kept doing it, because for the first time in his life, people weren't mocking him, they were worshiping him. In 1955, Elvis met Colonel Tom Parker, a shrewd, manipulative promoter who saw dollar signs when he looked at Elvis. Parker became Elvis's manager, taking a shocking 50% of everything Elvis earned. It was a deal that would make Elvis a superstar, but also trap him for life. Colonel Parker booked Elvis on bigger and bigger shows. Local concerts became regional tours. Regional tours became national television appearances. And in 1956, everything exploded. Elvis appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show, the biggest television program in America. 60 million people, nearly 80% of American television viewers, tuned in to watch. But the producers were nervous about Elvis's suggestive movements. They filmed him only from the waist up. This censorship only made Elvis more controversial, more famous, more irresistible. Teenagers loved him. Parents hated him. Preachers called him the devil. Politicians demanded he be arrested for corrupting youth. But nothing could stop him. In 1956, Elvis released hit after hit. Heartbreak Hotel, #1 for 7 weeks. Don't Be Cruel, #1 for 11 weeks. Hound Dog, #1 for 11 weeks. Love Me Tender, #1 for 5 weeks. Elvis wasn't just a singer, he was a cultural earthquake. He made movies, he appeared on magazine covers, he made teenage girls faint just by looking at them. He was the first modern superstar, the blueprint for every rock star who came after. By the end of 1956, Elvis Presley was the biggest entertainer in the world. At just 21 years old, the poor kid from Tupelo had become a phenomenon. He bought his mother the mansion he promised her, Graceland, a 23-room estate in Memphis. Gladys cried when she saw it. Her son had kept his promise, but she also worried. "All this fame," she told Elvis, "I'm afraid for you, baby." She was right to be afraid, because the price of fame was about to become very, very high. The Army, losing his mother, losing himself. In December 1957, at the absolute peak of his fame, Elvis received a letter that changed everything. He had been drafted into the United States Army. Colonel Parker tried to get Elvis an exemption or a cushy entertainment position, but Elvis refused. "I want to serve like everyone else," he said. He didn't want special treatment, he wanted to prove he was a regular guy. On March 24, 1958, Elvis Presley, the biggest star on earth, became Private Elvis Presley, serial number 533-10761. His famous hair was shaved off. He wore the same uniform as everyone else. He slept in barracks. He did basic training. The media covered it like a national tragedy. Fans wept. But Elvis took it seriously. He didn't complain, he followed orders. He earned the respect of his fellow soldiers. But then, in August 1958, tragedy struck. Elvis's mother, Gladys, his whole world, his everything, became seriously ill. She had been drinking heavily, depressed and anxious about Elvis being away. Her liver was failing. Elvis rushed home on emergency leave. He stayed by her bedside, holding her hand, begging her to get better. "Mama, please don't leave me. I need you." On August 14, 1958, Gladys Presley died. She was only 46 years old. Elvis collapsed at her funeral, crying uncontrollably, trying to climb into her coffin. His friends had to pull him away. "She's all I lived for," Elvis said. "She was always my best girl." Elvis was never the same after his mother died. The light in his eyes dimmed, the joy in his spirit faded. He had lost the only person who loved him for who he was, not what they could do for them. Elvis returned to the army and finished his service in Germany. There, he was introduced to prescription drugs, uppers to stay alert on duty, downers to sleep. This would be the beginning of his downfall, though nobody knew it yet. In Germany, Elvis also met a 14-year-old girl named Priscilla Bulio. She was the daughter of a U.S. Air Force officer. Elvis was 24. The age difference was inappropriate, but Elvis was lonely and traumatized by his mother's death. Elvis brought Priscilla back to America and essentially raised her. They lived together at Graceland, though they didn't marry until 1967, when Priscilla was 21. This relationship would be complicated, controlling, and ultimately doomed. When Elvis was discharged from the army in 1960, the world had changed. The Beatles were rising, rock and roll had evolved, and Elvis, under Colonel Parker's control, was being pushed into a safer, more commercial direction. Instead of raw rock and roll, Elvis was making lightweight movies, silly beach films, romantic comedies, movies with titles like Blue Hawaii, Girls, 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 and Clambake. Elvis hated these movies. He wanted to be a serious actor. He wanted to make music that mattered. But Colonel Parker only cared about money, and these movies made millions. Between 1960 and 1969, Elvis made 27 movies. Most were terrible. Elvis knew it. He was ashamed. The revolutionary who had changed music was now a joke, a has-been, yesterday's news. By 1968, Elvis hadn't performed a live concert in 7 years. He was disconnected from his fans, depressed, overweight, dependent on prescription pills. His marriage was falling apart. His career seemed over. But then, someone convinced Colonel Parker to let Elvis do something different, a televised concert special. Just Elvis, his guitar, his band, and his music. No scripts, no gimmicks, just raw performance. It would be called 68 Comeback Special, and it would remind the world who Elvis Presley really was. The Comeback, Reclaiming the Throne. On December 3, 1968, Elvis, the 68 Comeback Special, aired on NBC. Nobody knew what to expect. Would Elvis still have it? Was he too old, too out of touch? The answer came in the first 5 minutes. Elvis, dressed in black leather, walked on stage with a guitar, and when he started singing, it was like 1956 all over again. The charisma, the voice, the power, it was all still there. Elvis performed his classic hits with a hunger and intensity he hadn't shown in years. He moved, he sweated, he smiled, he was alive again. The special was the highest-rated show of the year. Over 42% of American television viewers watched. Critics raved. Elvis was back. The king had reclaimed his throne. Following this success, Elvis returned to live performing. In 1969, he began a legendary residency at the International Hotel in Las Vegas. These weren't the small clubs of his youth. These were massive showrooms with thousands of fans. Elvis's Vegas shows were spectacular. He wore elaborate jumpsuits designed by Bill Ballou, white, jeweled, dramatic. He had a full orchestra, backup singers, dancers. He gave everything on stage, sometimes performing 2 shows a night. And the fans came, night after night, year after year. Elvis sold out every show. He broke attendance records. He was making millions. He was on top again. But offstage, Elvis was falling apart. The prescription drug use that started in the army had become a full addiction. He took pills to wake up, pills to sleep, pills to perform, pills to relax. His weight fluctuated wildly. He would go on crash diets, lose 40 pounds, then gain it all back. His mood swings were intense. He was paranoid, isolated, surrounded by yes-men who enabled his worst habits. In 1972, Priscilla left him. She couldn't handle the drugs, the affairs, the dysfunction. Their divorce was finalized in 1973. Elvis was heartbroken, but not surprised. He knew he had pushed her away. Still, Elvis continued performing. Between 1969 and 1977, he performed over 1,100 concerts. He was always working, always on stage. It was the only place he felt alive. But his body was breaking down. The drugs, the poor diet, the grueling schedule, it was all catching up. By the mid-1970s, Elvis was often too sick to perform. Shows were canceled, fans worried. Elvis's final concert was on June 26, 1977, in Indianapolis. He struggled through the performance. His voice was weak, his movements were slow. He looked old, bloated, exhausted. After the show, Elvis returned to Graceland. He was supposed to start another tour in 2 weeks, but his body had had enough. End. The King dies. August 16, 1977. It was a typical hot summer day in Memphis. Elvis was at Graceland, preparing for his upcoming tour. He couldn't sleep. He never could anymore without pills. Around 4 a.m., Elvis played racquetball with some friends. Then he went to his bathroom to read. This was his habit. He would spend hours in the bathroom, reading, thinking, taking pills. Around 2 p.m., his girlfriend, Ginger Alden, woke up and found Elvis unresponsive on the bathroom floor. He was face down. He wasn't breathing. She called for help. Paramedics arrived. They tried to revive him, but it was too late. Elvis Presley was dead at 42 years old. The official cause of death was cardiac arrhythmia, heart failure, but everyone knew the real cause, prescription drug abuse. The autopsy found 14 different drugs in Elvis's system. His colon was impacted with months of waste. His internal organs were damaged. His body had simply given up. The news spread around the world like wildfire. Millions of fans wept. Radio stations played his music non-stop. President Jimmy Carter issued a statement. Elvis Presley's death deprives our country of a part of itself. On August 18, 1977, Elvis was buried at Graceland next to his mother. Over 80,000 fans lined the streets of Memphis. It was like the death of a president. But Elvis's death wasn't just the loss of a singer. It was the end of an era, the end of innocence, the proof that fame could destroy even the brightest star. Elvis had everything: talent, wealth, love, adoration, but he died alone on a bathroom floor, his body destroyed by addiction, his spirit broken by isolation. The legacy: the king never dies. Today, over 45 years after his death, Elvis Presley remains one of the most recognizable figures in human history. His image is everywhere, his music still sells, his influence is eternal. Let's look at what Elvis achieved. Over 1 billion records sold worldwide, more than any solo artist in history. 18 #1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100, 3 Grammy Awards, all for gospel music, 31 films, many terrible but some iconic, the best-selling solo artist of all time. Graceland is the second most visited house in America, after the White House. He remains the highest-earning dead celebrity, generating over $55 million per year. But more importantly, Elvis changed culture. He broke the color barrier in music. He made it okay for men to be sexual, emotional, vulnerable. He invented the modern celebrity. He created the blueprint for rock stardom that every artist after him followed. Without Elvis, there would be no Beatles, no Rolling Stones, no Led Zeppelin, no Michael Jackson, no Prince, no hip-hop borrowing from rock, no modern pop music as we know it. Elvis proved that being different was powerful, that breaking rules could change the world, that a poor kid from nowhere could become a king. But his life also teaches us the dark side of fame. That money doesn't buy happiness, that drugs don't fill the void, that losing yourself in the pursuit of pleasing others will destroy you. The lessons. What Elvis teaches us. Lesson 1. Being different is your greatest asset. Elvis was mocked for being weird, feminine, different, but those differences made him revolutionary. Don't hide what makes you unique, amplify it. Lesson 2. Break the rules that need to be broken. Elvis mixed black and white music when society said it was forbidden. He moved his body when authorities said it was obscene. Change requires rule breakers. Lesson 3. Stay true to your art. Elvis's biggest regret was making those terrible movies. He compromised his artistic integrity for money. Never sell your soul. You can't buy it back. Lesson 4. Fame without purpose is a prison. Elvis had everything but felt empty. He was surrounded by people but felt alone. External success means nothing without internal peace. Lesson 5. Healing childhood trauma doesn't heal your childhood. Elvis never recovered from losing his twin, his poverty, his mother's death. All the fame in the world couldn't fill that void. Heal your wounds, or they will destroy you. Lesson 6. Who you surround yourself with determines your destiny. Elvis was surrounded by enablers, yes-men, and parasites. Colonel Parker exploited him. His Memphis Mafia enabled his addiction. Choose your circle wisely. Lesson 7. Your body is your temple. Respect it. Elvis destroyed his body with drugs, poor diet, and stress. No amount of talent can overcome self-destruction. Health is wealth. Final message. Be revolutionary, but stay grounded. My amazing friends, you have something special inside you, right? Maybe it's music, art, an idea, a vision. Maybe it's something the world doesn't understand yet. Maybe people tell you to be normal, to fit in, to follow the rules. Let me tell you something powerful today. Elvis Presley was told to be normal, to sing like everyone else, to move like everyone else, to be like everyone else. But he refused. He sang his way, he moved his way, he lived his way, and he changed the entire world. You have that same power, the power to be different, the power to break rules that need to be broken, the power to create something the world has never seen. But learn from Elvis's mistakes. Don't let fame become your identity. Don't let success fill voids that only healing can fill. Don't surround yourself with people who want to use you. Stay grounded, stay real, stay connected to what matters: family, health, purpose, authenticity. Because Elvis lost all of those things, and all the gold records in the world couldn't bring them back. Elvis Presley teaches us that you can change the world by being yourself, but you must protect yourself in the process. You must set boundaries. You must choose health over fame, authenticity over approval, life over legend. So, my friends, whatever makes you different, whatever makes you unique, whatever makes you you, embrace it, amplify it, let it shine. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for approval. Don't wait for the world to understand. Just do it, create it, be it. Now, if this story inspired you even a little bit, then like this video so I know you felt the power of this message. Comment below and tell me, what rules are you ready to break? What makes you different? Subscribe and hit the bell icon because we're on a journey of learning, growing, and becoming unstoppable together. My amazing friends, your future is waiting for you. Go out there and be revolutionary, but stay grounded in what's real. And always remember Elvis's greatest gift to the world. Don't criticize what you don't understand, son. You never walked in that man's shoes. The world needs your uniqueness. The world needs your revolution. The world needs you.